double check on everything.
I'm
You
on
guys
the
see it?
planet. I see. You know, let me go. Let me click back on that. Okay, yeah. Affleck, script scrap, Panther, Tomb Raider.
Cool. All right. So, how are the levels coming on your end? And I'll ask you that first, Tom and Rob. And
Oh, we're already streaming?
yes, we are.
Oh, well, I didn't want to do this early, but okay. Sounds okay, I guess. You're a little low, Cena, but... Okay, I think we're okay, though. Whenever you're ready to start the intro.
Hold on, let me see. I'm going to do something. Okay, now we're live. Okay, try refreshing the page to see if it comes up.
Yeah, it's up.
Okay, so this is the new one, right? You see it?
Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
Okay, just wanted to double check. Let me go live. Dashboard. We're gonna start in a minute. Anyone coming to the chats yet?
There's 5 people.
Okay, that's pretty cool. Did you post it on what should we call it, on Facebook?
No, go ahead and do it, because you did it right the last time I didn't.
Okay, you're using the wrong chink link. You're using the server URL link. That's why it wasn't showing up for you. So let me go ahead. I'll just go post it right there on the Facebook. Okay. Oh my God.
Put it on the Midnight's Edge page too.
Okay. I'm gonna have to message. Hold on a second. Should. Okay, it should change itself anyway. It's saying Spider-Man Homecoming live review. I don't know why it's saying that. It's so bizarre. But it says Affleck script and all that on your end, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's bizarre as something. And you know what? I'm just gonna try this instead. Let me just try this, and then I'm gonna do that. And all right, okay, it's fine. It's just a glitch, really. That's okay.
Yeah.
Now it's working. Okay, so when you guys are ready, we can completely go live.
Go ahead and start up the intro.
Okay, no problem.
Hello there once again, and welcome to the Film Buffet Podcast. I'm your resident film buff, Tom, and with me as always is Beyond the Blizz and Robb Gallo. How are we doing tonight, gentlemen?
Doing pretty good, not too bad.
Doing fantastic.
Good. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and get into the other loop, and we can start doing a pre-show. You there, Tom?
Yeah. That's all. Okay. So yeah, some of the people that are joining us out there, the whole 2 or 3, and my mom, that are out there listening right now. I doubt she's even listening, but you might be coming back from the Planet of the Apes previews. If not, hopefully you get a chance to see it this weekend. I got to see it last night. It's just amazing. I don't know how else to put it. We'll put a link down below for my review after the show. Guys, check that out. It's just a great film. I'll tell you what, right now, Matt Reeves can direct anything he wants. At this point, I say give him the fucking DC universe. This guy knows how to make a trilogy, or at least finish up a trilogy. Considering Rupert Wyatt made the original one, but this is also a good example of how to remake a trilogy, or just remake films in general, because the original film is so iconic. I think Tim Burton's version taught us anything is to stay the fuck away from it. Don't mess with it. Go at it at a completely different angle, and that's what Rupert Wyatt and Matt Reeves have done here. And I guess the farthest back I can think of a trilogy that is this strong has got to be the Star Wars trilogy at this point. I mean, it just I've never seen a third film really pull off. Maybe the Back to the Future trilogy, I guess, be next one down. That's it.
Well, actually, the Back to the Future trilogy, to be honest with you, I mean, the second one, I got a kick out of the second one because I like the fact that they showed how Marty was helping himself in two different timelines. I did really like that aspect of it. But I thought the third one was definitely the weakest of the trilogy.
You're in the minority there, because if you look up all the critics and everything, the third one was the highest rated of the sequels.
Really interesting. Well, I have to check into that because I could have sworn the last time I checked that
Here's the thing with part two is part two became more of a cult hit as time went on. Rob probably knows what I mean too, because if he remembers when part two came out, a lot of people didn't like part two. Like it got a lot of bad word of mouth when the second one came out. Go ahead.
Yeah,
interesting.
Yeah, and it kind of, when it started to be run on television, I think a lot of people came around to it. Say, hey, you know what? Maybe this isn't too bad, but
I think plus the closer we got to 2000s, that also helped.
Yeah, I see what you're saying there.
2 years late on predicting the Cubs would win the World Series, though.
Pretty close, though.
Yeah.
Kind of strange though, how like some of it came true. Or well, I'm still waiting for our flying cars and our dressing like they did, all the bullies did with everything and the whole. Futuristic setting. They got some things right though. They got the whole thing with the we have Skype now, which we're using to talk to everybody.
There's a lot of different stuff that they did kind of get right. But but back on Apes.
Yeah, we gotta get back on Apes.
If you guys get a chance to check it out this weekend, do it. I wish Fox was smart enough to either release this 2 weeks ago or 2 weeks from now. This is the dumbest time to release this movie.
It's really gonna hurt it.
Spider-Man is going to kick its ass, and it's not fair because both movies are amazing. And Apes on its own, I'll tell you what, I've seen, I don't know how many millions of movies, you guys know. I know how movies are made. It's very tough for a movie to actually emotionally pull me in like this movie did. And it did it after me sitting in a theater already for over 4 hours watching the first two films with excruciatingly long intermissions in between. So the fact that this movie not only sucked me in and kept me going for 2.5 hours, and it got me emotionally involved, really tells a lot. So I mean, I'm not trying to overhype it, but yeah, if you haven't seen the first two films, definitely do yourself a favor and then go see this one.
I saw the first film and I did like it. But it was kind of unfair because I did see it on an airplane.
Right.
And I was like, oh, this is good. It's got a good story. It's good characters. This isn't bad.
Probably chopped down too. I'm sure it was edited down to like a PG version or something.
Yeah, but I said at the time but I kind of really don't want to see another one. But like I say, I didn't hate the first one. I thought it was very good, very well made. I may have to give the second film a watch before I decide to go see this one, though. So that's
you might want to do that. And I mean, the second film is a lot like the difference between Alien and Aliens. Like, they are two completely different films. The third film is more in the vein of the second film, but it completely pays everything off from the first two films. Everything that's presented in this film is paid off. There's absolutely no fat in this film at all. In fact, I feel like there's some stuff that was probably cut out because there's maybe 2 or 3 events in the film that kind of happen out of nowhere. You're like, I wish there was like just a little bit of lead up just before, and you're like, okay, that should have been, just a little bit more teased instead of just happening like that. But I mean, there's some intense shit in this movie compared to the first two. And some people are saying it's not a very action oriented movie. I don't know what they're talking about because of all the 3 movies, this has like twice as much action as the first 2 movies do put together.
Now, without going into spoilers, do they leave the door open for another film, or is this it?
Kinda. It's more set up to where you could just loop around with the Charlton Heston films. Like, basically that's the only place they can really kind of go from here is to remake the original film, because it does tie up everything really well. Even in my review, it's not really a spoiler, but the virus that's killed most of the human race in the second film that got started in the first film has now mutated. So now it's making humans regress to where they can't talk and they're more simple-minded. So it's kind of getting them to that point where the humans are in the original Planet of the Apes, if you're familiar with it.
Yes.
So yeah, they're kind of, I like how they did it all. It's very intricate. The new characters they introduce are very well, interwoven with the characters that we already know as far as the apes go. There's a lot less to read in this one. That's the only thing I know some people complained about the second film, is they felt like they were watching Dances with Wolves again because they had to read most of the movie. So, because, the apes are doing sign language through most of the second film. In this movie, there's not as much sign language. There is, but they talk a lot more than they do signs. So there's that part of it, too, that kind of builds it up. And Woody Harrelson's character is just crazy. Just fucking crazy.
Crazy good or crazy just crazy?
Bull, just like, he's like a very good comparison to like how Michael Keaton was in Spider-Man. You understand him, but at the same time, I'd say I'd give Woody Harrelson just that little bit more crazy. Because he's kind of like a very military, very militant, don't give a shit, it's all about the mission kind of guy.
Right. Well, I feel like only thing is, it's kind of like this thing where is it like an inversion where the humans get dumber and the apes get smarter? Is that how they're doing it? Pretty much everything gets inverted, like I was in the original.
Well, that's the way when Charlton Heston's character and the other group land, all the humans they run into can't talk, and they're basically like primitive, like apes. And all the apes, on the other hand, have guns and they ride on horses and they talk and all that kind of crap. So then when he talks, it freaks them the fuck out. See, and that's one aspect of the Tim Burton remake that really, I think, screwed it up, because the humans can talk in it, and it's like, this is pointless. And they did the same thing with the TV series of Planet of the Apes, and it made no sense too. But anyway, so yeah.
You didn't see the original Planet of the Apes there, Beyond, or not?
No, I didn't get a chance to see it. To be honest, I haven't seen any of the Apes films, the recent ones. I haven't. I just, for whatever reason, they just never got into them. I don't know why. It was just like, oh, apes. Now you see apes on horses. Now you see
I
apes
can
on
see the
horses.
original films. Unless you grew up with them, I can see them aging really badly.
No, I'm not talking about the original. I'm talking about the new trilogy that we're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm saying.
You didn't even check out Rise of the Planet of the Apes?
No, I haven't seen any of them.
Wow, you're missing out, man. You are. They are completely different animals in more ways than one. And that's what I love about it, because like I said, if you're going to do a remake, this is like comparing the original Fly to the Fly remake. It's that much big of a world of difference. It's like they took that kernel, there's a lot of seeds from the old movies in there, but unless you've seen the old movies, you wouldn't even know it, and other than that, they borrow a few ideas from the last two films before that. Other than that, it's almost completely fresh and new from a completely different angle. So it's like, it's a little bit different than what you'd expect, I think. But, it might not be everybody's cup of tea, but...
Yeah, now there's no big musical number like in the Simpsons version, is there? I mean...
From chimpanzee to chimpanzee? No.
No, oh my God, I was wrong.
But yeah, no, and Matt Reeves, I mean, I can't praise it enough. I mean, I wasn't a big fan of Cloverfield, because I think that was one of his first films, if I'm not mistaken. But other than that, everything I've seen him do has been really good. And I'm really looking forward to The Batman, which is supposed to be now got a date coming out, which is a perfect segue into our next part here.
Right.
So anything else anybody wants to say about Apes? I've praised it enough. So
there's nothing really else to say. I haven't seen it, so I wouldn't really know. So.
And I don't want to spoil anything for anybody. So yeah, if you get a chance to go see it, go see it. Anyway, the Matt Reeves come out again, and this was kind of news before. This was kind of old news now, but it's been solidified, I guess, for lack of a better way of putting it. We've got the Batman movie coming here soon, and the date now is set to be 2019. And Matt recently, as he was being interviewed, obviously for the press junket for Planet of the Apes, he said that they are not using Ben Affleck's script. That's kind of the big grandiose sweep of the whole story here. What's your guys' feeling though, now that this is kind of solidified and the release date and all that?
Go for it, Rob. Let us enlighten us.
I'm wondering how bad that Ben Affleck script was. So, but no, obviously, Ben Affleck and Matt Reeves have different ideas about what direction to take Batman. So really not a surprise. I'm wondering if they're going to use any elements of Ben Affleck's script in this. I mean, and to what extent, or are they just completely throwing it out? Because usually they'll lift a couple things. Okay, we'll use this, we'll use this, we'll use this, but the whole story might be different. Kind of like the way Peyton Reed's Ant-Man lifted some elements from Edgar Wright's Ant-Man.
Right.
Yeah. But,
and he said in an interview, I think basically I'm paraphrasing, but he said, Ben Affleck's script was great, but if I was going to do this movie, I had to make it my movie, basically in so many words.
Yeah. So, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, usually they don't really want to take over another guy's idea. If you mess it up, then someone else, Ben Affleck's probably gonna be pissed off about it. And you never know when you're going to work with someone again. So that does make sense.
Yeah, and what do you think, Beyond?
Yeah, what do you think, Beyond?
Well, two things. Well, it can either be a good thing where it was for the best, and they're like, you know what, this Ben Affleck script isn't working because it's in the old regime of the DC movies, and now they're trying to fix everything now. And excuse me, I think perhaps that's the first thing I'm thinking about. That they're like, okay, this is not working. We need to restructure the whole thing, so we need to have a whole new brand new script to start fresh. The other side is that what if Ben Affleck's script was better? I'm going to play devil's advocate for a little bit. Let's say his script was better, but then like maybe DC was like, oh, well, we wanted it this way, and kind of that's maybe what led to them getting it scrapped. And maybe Matt Reeves is more of a team player, more of a studio player, because he worked with Fox, so he's been in the field for a while now. And Ben Affleck maybe his film was more out there in a sense, maybe it was a little more experimental, and maybe that was part of the reason why Warner Bros was getting nervous about like taking that risk, because they saw what happened with Batman v Superman and Man of Steel, and perhaps maybe that led into it. We're not going to know for sure. It's the same thing that happened with the Han Solo movie. We will never know for sure because we weren't in the meeting rooms, we weren't in the rooms where they were discussing this stuff, so we had to speculate. But I will say in closing, I think the interesting thing is this. I'm really curious with the whole noir angle they're going for. That's pretty different. I mean, seeing the first superhero movie to be a noir, to be something that's like Blade Runner, like a mystery film with mixed with Batman, that gets me excited. That really, I mean, imagine a movie where it's like non-linear, and it can be non-linear in structure, starts the movie off where you see someone gets killed, or something mysterious happens, and Batman, the greatest detective, which we never see him really doing the detective work in any of the films, go out there and say, okay, I gotta find this guy or this artifact or something or whatever it is.
I gotta kind of correct you on that and interject real quick.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Because people seem to forget that the 1989 Batman was very noir. And not only that, he did a lot of detective work in that one by figuring out the chemicals, and he did some detective work in The Dark Knight. But I get what you're saying. Like the straight up 1940s noir.
Full on embracing the entire aesthetic of a noir film. This is the film to do with. Is the Batman. I mean, you got elements of it in the Batman. The original 1989 one, and you're not wrong about that at all, Tom. But I'm saying something that's specifically within the aesthetic of a noir film. This gets me a little bit excited, at least more on board, at least more optimistic to say, okay, this has a chance to succeed. Yeah.
When I think of a noir film, I always think of the classic kind of Humphrey Bogart films. It was 5 p.m. I was ready to close the office. I bought myself a drink, and that's when she walked in. That whole thing,
Exactly, yeah.
Good old school stuff. Never gets old either.
She had honey blonde hair and a pair of gams that went from here to Tuesday. So,
see?
I say, I say when I talk like that,
Yeah, that Mid-Eastern or whatever accent they use.
Transatlantic
accent, yeah.
Yes, that's what it is, yes.
Yeah, something, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
They
thought it was an easy. Just as a side note, they thought whoever developed the transatlantic accent actually thought it'd be easier for Americans and Brits to be understood. I'm like, boy, were they wrong. Jeez.
Right. Yeah, it was kind of a odd choice, but yeah.
Well, that was because back in the day, like film was more like a stage play than it was a film. Yeah. Like you notice how like the progression of film has become more like. More realistic, if that makes sense. Whereas we look at old films, you could tell it feels like it's done on a stage play. Everything's in that format. Whereas things now, it's like they don't even acknowledge that they're in a movie. Like it feels like
Go ahead.
It feels like you're looking into a world that doesn't know that it's not looking out to you.
Right. I was gonna say, kids don't realize nowadays that movies used to be made with popsicle sticks and rubber bands. You know, I mean,
yeah. Well, yeah.
They've come a long way.
It has come a long way for sure.
Yeah, but anyway, back to the noir Batman. I mean, I'm wondering how noir they're gonna get. I mean, are they gonna really just kind of go really low tech, all practical effects? Just like all kind of ground level detective snooping kind of stuff, or are they what?
I'm not wearing hockey pads.
Yeah, exactly. I can't believe they actually used that line. Jeez. But anyway, yeah, it would actually. I'm picturing something very much like Batman the Animated Series.
That would be sweet. That's
which
what
would be
want.
A great template for a Batman movie. So,
but I don't know if they can really get there anymore. I mean, that's just it. It's like, okay, so what was the deal with Ben Affleck's script? Let's take it back just a little bit. I can't imagine it'd be that bad. It's Ben fucking Affleck. I mean, kid wrote Good Will Hunting, and he's responsible for how many of the last few years' biggest Oscar bait films. You know, I mean, come on. The kid's only one freaking movie away from an Oscar himself as far as best director. He's, you know, on the cusp of it. You can feel it. But all of a sudden he's had this just crash in his personal life. So did this bleed into the script?
Oh, certainly. I bet it did. He probably put something in the script. Okay, girl named Jennifer Garner. No, that didn't happen. But the thing just has something just heinous happen to her or whatever. Like, girl named Jennifer Garner gets thrown in the ocean and she's found at the bottom of the lake or something. No. But I think what it is, it's more of a tonality thing. Like I said before, it's more of a. I think Ben Affleck's script was a Plan B change that you could tell the entire landscape of DC has to be completely revamped, especially since Wonder Woman, they completely are like saying, you know what, let's just start over. Let's try this again. And I think they're looking at Ben Affleck's scripts like, maybe
let's
this
go back even farther, though. Let's go back a little farther, though. The only villain that we got announced was, what's his name? Manganiello? Yeah. What the hell's his name? Is that his name?
Yeah, Manganiello.
Flash from the original Spider-Man. I forgot his name.
Yeah, I can't remember his first name, but yeah.
Joe Manganiello.
Joe Manganiello. Yeah, okay, so he was the only villain announced, and we got to see the test footage of him as Deathstroke. So, what if, because then we also got this report, you guys remember, where there was this report from Warner Brothers, not Ben Affleck, Warner Brothers, that stated the Batman movie was going to have almost the entire Batman Rogues Gallery. It was going to just be a plethora of villains.
See, I think what I like, here's two things. I think Ben Affleck was going for Arkham Asylum, which I would have lost my mind if they would have done that.
I'm not so sure. Here's what I was going to get at, though. I think Deathstroke was going to be the only villain other than maybe a cameo by Joker or something like that in the film. And I think he brought that to Warner Brothers. This is my conspiracy theory, guys. I think he brought that to Warner Brothers and like, this is not the fucking movie we want. We want the Joker in this. We want the Penguin. We want the Riddler. We want all of them. Because Suicide Squad was out at this time, remember? And it did well for them. So at that point, we know how Warner Brothers is reactionary. They're like, we need something more like this. So I'm thinking Ben's like, well, I don't want to do that fucking movie. So they're like, well, what do you want to do? So that's where we got in this whole thing for how many months that they were going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. They probably did how many revisions, and they finally could not come to a, conclusion on this. So Ben's like, well, if you're not going to use my script, then fuck you, I'm not directing. That's probably what happened. That's my conspiracy theory. And then they brought on Matt Reeves, and Matt Reeves obviously was doing closer to the movie they want, but obviously I trust him to do well with whatever they give him.
You think so? You think really they wanted a bigger name villain than Deathstroke?
I think so.
That most people aren't going to recognize unless they're DC fans or unless they played Arkham Asylum.
Exactly. How much you want to bet when we first start hearing about this, we're going to start hearing some casting eventually for some other characters. Jared Leto will probably be signed on as Joker if they haven't found a new Joker yet, because it sounds like Leto's coming back. The big question everybody's got on their mind is if Ben Affleck's still coming back. As far as we know, he's been confirmed to come back from a few different sources, one not so reliable because he didn't really give us a definitive answer. And we talked about that on a previous episode way back, and that's Charles Roven, where he was talking about I expect Ben Affleck to show up, or basically in so many words. So there's still no real definitive answer on that, but I can imagine as long as the script is good and Ben Affleck trusts Matt Reeves, he'll come back. And I think now that Wonder Woman was a hit, he's kind of back on board, especially if Justice League does well for him, but we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, like I said, one thing I said, since Justice Wonder Woman was a success, if Justice League ends up being bad, like in comparison, like I don't think it's gonna kill the brand because they get people say, "Oh, but Wonder Woman was so great," so they're gonna use that as a thing. Of course, people don't know it up to this point. I didn't think all that much of Wonder Woman. I think people are Phantom Menacing the film. I really do. I think they're just.
It's gonna boil down to how much time Joss Whedon really has to fix this thing.
Right. I think that's what it is. I think if Justice League fails, I think it may set them back a bit. But I don't think it's going to fail. It's going to be financially successful, probably. But
do I think it's going to be as bad as Batman v Superman? No,
I don't. I think it's probably.
I think it'll be up to more of that level of Wonder Woman, and it'll get overhyped. Or if it's what you got that other side of it we've talked about before too, where the DC fanatiacs could come after it and not like it because you Disney-fied our DC universe. You brought Joss Whedon in and he made Avengers 2.0.
No, They didn't Disneyfy it. They made it watchable. That's what they did.
There's a difference, folks. Right? It's like I swear they don't understand. And that's what I mean, not to get completely off track, but that's what drives me bonkers is people that don't understand. Yeah, Disney technically owns Marvel, but Marvel Studios operates almost completely on its own. They can do anything they want pretty much. And like I've said before, if Kevin Feige says we're going to do an R-rated Blade movie, I don't think Disney would flinch because people forget that this was the same company that had Miramax and, Dimension Films and all these other banners underneath them many years ago where characters like Pinhead and every single Quentin Tarantino movie was released under them for a while. It's like, come on, people, just relax. There's always that possibility here. It's just basically at this point, Kevin Feige doesn't see the need to go that far. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I already threw up some pictures. This is a new picture we have of the lineup with Wonder Woman, Batman, and The Flash. And, I mean, it looks fine. I mean, it's pretty much the same stuff we saw before. They gave some context saying that The Flash is pretty much going to be this kind of, this sort of nerdy character that pretty much has a disregard for other people, in a sense where he kind of sees himself. Like, he thinks they'll kind of the world.
From.
I'm sorry?
Said, gee, I wonder where this influence came from in the last weekend. Somebody must have went and saw Spider-Man.
Yeah, well, anyway, basically they're saying that he's more of a guy that kind of sees the world kind of revolved around him, kind of what I've gotten from it, where he's kind of like, oh, I'm an intellectual, I'm better than everyone else, and I make this Flash sheet myself, and I'm so smart, and all that stuff.
That's not really Flash, though.
Yeah, Flash is more of a hothead guy, but he's still likable. That's what Flash is.
Yeah, he's a lot like Peter Parker. He's a lot like Spider-Man, only he's grown up and because he's got a job as a forensic scientist. But I don't know if that's the version they're going to go with here or not. But it just doesn't make sense to bring in that kind of I guess maybe for this Jesus Christ, I can't talk tonight. This dynamic, perhaps, but I don't know. Everything I keep hearing and seeing about the Flash, I do not like. It really sucks because he is in my top 10 characters, and it really sucks. I mean, of all time, not just DC. But yeah.
Yeah, I can agree with that for sure. I think Flash is. I really like him a lot. I liked him in the animated series. He was a cool character.
I love
he wasn't a sciencey type,
I like the CW show, don't get me wrong, but
right.
Did you guys ever see the DC animated movie Flashpoint Paradox?
Yes, one of my very favorites. One of the few new 52 stories I actually like. I love that. And if you haven't watched the show, the new show takes a lot of influence from that story. Yeah, from the very start.
I was about to say, because that's the kind of Flash I would like to see on film. I mean, that's actually a really good story. It's kind of a convoluted story for those out there who haven't seen it. I'm not going to spoil it. I mean, go watch it. I mean, you can probably pick it up at Best Buy for under $15 these days.
A good synopsis of it is Flash tries to go back in time to stop his mother from being killed and his father going to prison for the crime he obviously didn't commit. And upon coming back, he realizes he fucked up the entire timeline because Superman's like a tyrant and Bruce Wayne is actually dead instead of Thomas Wayne and Martha Wayne, and it's all fucked up. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's gonna put things right. That's the thing, and he doesn't have his powers. That's the other thing too.
Wait, does that mean that his parents become Batman and Batwoman? Pretty much, no.
Actually, his dad does become a version of Batman, and I guess if anybody doesn't want any spoilers, cover your ears for about 2 seconds. His mother becomes the Joker.
That's actually hilarious.
It's fucking dynamic. It is awesome. If you have not seen it, pick it up. If you haven't read the comic, pick it up, because not only is it's like Thomas Wayne is turned into Batman because Bruce Wayne is killed instead of the other way around.
But why Martha Wayne being the Joker? That is
because she goes fucking crazy because Bruce Wayne got killed instead.
Well, I can see that.
Yeah,
mother...
so it works perfectly and it's awesome. It's amazing. Yeah. But anyway, go ahead, Rob. Sorry.
Yeah. No. I mean, like I said, if you haven't seen the film, see the film, if you can't pick up the trade paperback, it's well worth your time.
That's pretty cool, guys. I have to definitely get that a try. But yeah, so that's pretty much everything with Justice League. Do you want to get into Black Panther? Pretty much since nothing.
Might as well.
Up. Yeah. Okay.
You can tell that San Diego Comic-Con's coming up because, as you see, we had this Justice League picture pop up here, and I want to say at least it's nice to see a picture of Batman that's not darker than shit. Because the last picture that come out, you couldn't even barely tell it was Batman. But anyway,
oh yeah, you mean the one with Zack Snyder release where it's like the silhouette and you can't even tell like what it really is. You have to really squint to see the details of Batman.
And all the fanatics are like, "Oh, it's Batman! It's supposed to be dark. It's a picture. You're supposed to be able to see it." You know,
it's really bad.
Next thing you know, Zack Snyder's going to release a Braille picture of Batman.
Well, that's what I did. I made a joke. I said, "Here's this new picture of the entire Justice League," and it was just a black picture. And then, like, there was some people, the DC fanatics, of course, were like, "Oh, and you think you're so funny?" It's like, well, it's not far from what we got.
It really isn't. But I think we have the same way since we have Black Panther up on the screen.
Yeah. So
But yeah. So. It's looking really like I really like the designs of the characters. It's like very African inspired. It's like this thing where you have the traditional like, certain like stuff you would see in that region, but at the same time they're upping the technology. So you get this perfect balance of this thing where you have the roots of African culture, but also they're like really technologically advanced. Like the whole thing with the trailer where you have they're pretty much like El Dorado is Wakanda. Like they basically tricked the world into thinking El Dorado was at a different location, it was in Central America or whatever. But everything looks so good so far. Everyone looks great. It's really cool. Like everyone has their armor and their cool like African tech look and everything like that. And one thing actually I will say this. One thing I really like is I really love Black Panther's costume. The way it has this because you see in Civil War it's more of an armor, but in this one instead of being an armor it's more like a really really like very thin bodysuit, but at the same time it's still vibranium, right? It's vibranium, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it's vibranium, so it's cool how it's thin, more lightweight, but at the same time it's still vibranium, still super strong. So he can still take, he could take a tank thrown at him and it won't do anything. I'm just saying, like, in terms of like a personifying his power set.
It looks like an animal.
He's not wearing hockey pads.
Right, exactly. I think it's pretty cool. So everything looks pretty promising to me. Like, I really hope this film turns out well. I think he's gonna pull it off. I think. Do not tell me I forgot this new name.
Chadwick Boseman.
No, that's Chadwick Boseman. Chadwick Boseman is gonna do great, but I'm talking about the director, Ryan. No. It's Ryan Coogler,
Ryan
right?
Coogler? Yeah.
Ryan Coogler. I think Ryan Coogler is going to do a great job with it. Everything looks great. And, of course, we saw the teaser trailer. The teaser trailer was fantastic. That was one of the best teaser trailers I've seen, right up there with Thor Ragnarok. I think Thor Ragnarok was a little bit better for me, but Black Panther was a close second. So, yeah, what do you guys think about the Black Panther stills and images we got of the characters and kind of, I think they gave you a synopsis, too, if I'm not mistaken, as well.
I think they look, like I said, it's hard for me to describe. It looks, like you said, it looks like it mixes traditional and yet very kind of high-tech kind of look. I mean, everything looks like it's rooted in traditional African garb, historic. I'm not an expert on that, so just bear with me, people. But
you're certainly not an historian, but it's by.
But I play one on the radio. But anyway.
Oh yeah,
But,
keep going, keep going, man.
But it does look historic yet modern at the same time, which is kind of a hard thing to pull off. And like you said, but the teaser, I mean, it does exactly what it's supposed to do. It gets me excited to see a Black Panther movie. It really does. I mean, I think this is going to surprise a lot of people. I mean, because it's not a very widely known character outside of the Marvel universe.
Well,
really.
in the comics, he's pretty popular. I think for comic book, he's pretty popular. But as far as like the actual like like people like regular people that aren't into comic books, most people know as Batman and Superman and Spider-Man, like the ones that people all across the world know and stuff like, and Wonder Woman. But with this has the potential to really give people something that's great. And it's something that's going to be a lot of different because we haven't seen a movie where it's like pretty much all a black cast, and to have something that's so high profile is really really cool.
Well, at least as a superhero film, yeah.
Right, it's a superhero film, so it's going to be really
Man and Blank Man.
yeah, exactly. So it's going to be really cool.
Meteor Man.
right. But yeah, so I think it's going to be cool, and I think one thing I also like too is that you have this thing where it's going to really like bring the culture of African culture stuff into the mainstream and show that it's okay to show it. It's okay to show different cultures, and we don't have to hide it. You know what I mean? It's like it can be shown, it can be celebrated, and like any other culture, and kind of show that it can be a viable thing, and people will go see it. Because I can tell you right now, I guarantee you, especially with the black audience like me, it's going to be pretty big. Like kind of what we saw with Wonder Woman, where I'm not sure how it did with females. I think it did pretty well with them. If I'm not mistaken. I think it did, right, guys?
Yeah.
I'm not too sure.
It did better with males, but
I think it did better with males. But I think for the black audience, I think it's going to do really well there, especially with me. So I'm going to see it opening weekend.
I think that this is what's great about Marvel. Is they've figured out time and time again. I might even said enough times, or maybe a few more I need to add, on how to make these movies, and not only keep them in the same universe, but make them feel like a completely different genre every time.
Yeah.
And here, what we're going to get, according to some of the report that went along with these pictures, was it's going to have a lot of Godfather and 007 type influence on it.
Oh my
and
God,
I'm assuming
that is going to be so excited.
I was going to say, so I'm assuming what they mean by that, so the people out there get what I'm saying here, is obviously you're going to have the family dynamic, especially with, the son and the father and the whole organization. Not crime, but an organization, I'm sure. And then at the same time with the 007 part is all where he's obviously a secret agent. He's got all the cool gadgets, all that kind of stuff. Then you also add in, at least they're not going like a blaxploitation route. And that's where I think some people totally didn't understand Luke Cage, because like Quentin Tarantino, for instance, felt that's the route they should have went. No, you can't go that route, because otherwise you won't take these characters seriously.
At least you can't go that route anymore. I mean,
no. Well, I mean, if you're going to do something comedy-wise, like Pootie Tang or whatever, that was another.
Well, Black Dynamite was pretty hilarious. The one that came out, that was incredible.
If you're going to do something like that, fine, no problem.
Undercover Brother, yeah.
But the moment you try doing something like this, though, and try and take the seriousness out of it and go any of those routes or angles, that's the problem. And that's where I said the trailer was perfect, except for one thing. I thought the hip-hop music was just a tad on the nose, but it worked with the trailer, don't get me wrong. It's just like one of those things where it's like you can present something here without going into any stereotypes, present it as accurate with the African what's the word I'm looking for?
Culture,
that's not the word I'm looking for, but just the whole aesthetic that they used, the tone, and how they use that as a backdrop for the superhero movie now. It's just like I said, every other one of these movies is different from the last. No matter, even if it's a Captain America movie, it's still different from the last movie, because the first one was like a war movie. The second one was more of an espionage film. And then, of course, Civil War we know is a all-out war film kind of thing. But yeah, it's kind of more of an Avengers film. Let's not beat around the bush. But anyway, the point being, it was just better than Avengers 2. Let's just put it that way.
I'm sorry to cut you, but one of the things, though, actually you brought up Civil War. Marvel has actually positioned this movie perfectly, because Civil War took care of the origin story, And
Right.
now we get to jump right into Black Panther. We get to jump in right in. We just jump right in, and he just take it from there. So it's essentially it's set itself up sort of like a Homecoming, Spider-Man Homecoming type of film, where okay, origin story. That's taken care of. Bang, we can go right into the action.
Right, it's basically that's what Civil War did, what Batman v Superman couldn't. It set up future movies, but in a way that was so organic to the story that you can see Civil War on its own, and it still works. And you can see it as a setup for Spider-Man and of course Black Panther. Well, both of them it was so organic into the story. Whereas with Batman v Superman, it's like let's start the movie and give you these little YouTube clips of all the different Justice League members. Okay, you saw it? Okay, make sure you see Justice League 2017. It really brought down the movie for me. It took me out of the movie, and I really didn't like it. That was one of the many things I can't stand about Batman v Superman. Nevertheless, what we have here with Black Panther is that we have a situation where you have a great origin story that was so perfect. All I just do is, his father dies, he's motivated,
Right.
and he finds that, vengeance is the answer. Bam, goes back to his homeland, goes back to Wakanda. Black Panther starts. The aftermath of Civil War, there you go. Good story. Godfather and 007, I'm there. Opening day. That's all. That's it. I mean, it's so simple. And that's the thing where, like, Hollywood seems to want to complicate things where let's make sure we put all these Easter eggs like the Amazing Spider-Man 2. Let's make sure we set up sequels. We gotta set up all those sequels, and then it brings down the film, and then it becomes an advertisement. It becomes an hour.
Well, I think they kind of learn. Oh, go ahead.
No, it becomes a 2-hour advertisement for a movie that it doesn't.
Right.
It can't even.
I was gonna say, I think that Marvel kind of learned their lesson already with punching too much or putting too much into these as far as like setting things up, because that's what really killed Iron Man 2 and Avengers Age of Ultron. Really, the parts that suffer are the parts that are setting shit up from everything else. You know what I mean?
Like the Thor coming out of the water, like, oh, I'm having a vision. Oh,
it's just, yeah, even Thor Ragnarok to a point had some of those elements to where there was things being set up for other films, like with the Infinity Stones and stuff like that. But anyway, point being, I'm glad to see they're finally coming around to it and realizing, especially with the last few films, that, oh, we don't have to, really stick it in the audience's face that this is where we're going. We can do it subtly, or we don't have to do it at all. And like I said with Spider-Man Homecoming, if they do have any elements that are setting up future events, they do it very nonchalantly, and it's integral to the story to where you don't notice. The only thing I can think of that's pretty blatant is obviously they got a new headquarters, but it plays well into the story. It works into the plot.
Yeah, everything pretty much works well. I know they used the Porsche building of, I think it's in upstate New York. Is that where it's, yeah, because that's where the Avengers facility is. I think they're using that one. I mean, it looks great, and the thing about it is, and again, it's all organic. Whereas any other studio, even what we saw with The Mummy, now I didn't see The Mummy, but I saw enough reviews to kind of get a gist of it, where the movie is just like a boring, drab, no fun, no charisma that the original had at all.
I was going to say, wasn't half of it setting up the rest of the universe anyway?
Right,
Wasn't
and
that
I also heard where the end of the movie, spoiler alert, I think Tom
Not
Cruise
that much of a spoiler. It's going to be out on video in like 2 weeks.
Exactly, because the movie bombed.
I'm not even exaggerating. It
You're
literally is coming out soon.
So we're like basically Tom Cruise stabbed himself. He's like, well, now I remember from Egypt. It's basically the what is it? He becomes what's this? He doesn't become Set. The Set is basically Satan in Egyptian terms, but I think he becomes some Lord of Darkness crap, whatever. It's stupid, and then he's like, then now he revives everybody, and everyone's back to life.
Carries the curse.
Yeah, it's like, oh my god, I just don't care. Like the original Brendan Fraser movie, I think the first one is a blast. It's such a fun movie. It's so fun. I was remembering, like, because I haven't seen it in so many years, but I remember. It's so much fun, and it's so authentic. It's like it takes inspiration from Indiana Jones, and it's like adventurous, and it feels very, very organic, and it's actually trying. Whereas this movie's like very made by committee. Let's just make sequels. Let's advertise the sequels. We got to set up this universe, and like. I wish they would have done was they would have had this movie first. Then after the movie is a success because they focus on making the movie great, then they can say, oh, you want more? Bam! Have the picture of the lineup of all the different monsters. You got the Frankenstein, Invisible Man, Tom Cruise is is the dark guy, whatever, and then you have the Mummy Girl there too. I forgot the actress's name, but then that would have built up hype for a sequel. But the way they did it was they put the cart before the horse, the old trite saying, and then they fumbled, and I saw it coming a mile away. Man, I knew this movie was going to suck, and it proves that Hollywood is so concerned with making the next movie that they don't focus on making the first movie good.
Yeah, the girl from the Mummy, Sofia Boutella.
Sofia Boutella.
Yeah, she's actually from Algeria of all places. Yeah, but anyway. But yeah, one of the things actually we were talking about, like setting up the sequels. They set up the sequels just in those post-credit scenes. I mean, so
a lot of times anymore, yeah.
Yeah, so that just frees them up to work on the story of all these films. So even when they're setting up Black Panther for his own movie in Civil War, they don't skimp on the story of in that movie either. So they've almost got it down to a science, really. If you think about it.
I said this a couple podcasts ago when they first dropped the trailer. After Civil War, I was like, oh yeah, he's a cool character. That's pretty neat. After seeing the trailer, I'm like, I want to see this movie now. I mean, before I was like, okay, he's a cool character. I didn't know much about him, but after seeing this movie, now I'm more interested. Now I really want to get into this world that we keep seeing in the trailer, right. And now we're seeing more of in these pictures. I like the design. I like how they're using the is it El Dorado or is it no?
El Dorado, like it was Wakanda.
Atlantis.
Atlantis.
Yeah, they're using that as the backdrop of this place where this hidden kingdom. I like that idea and all that kind of, I just like the whole idea.
Yeah, the whole thing's like a secret. But again, what I like about it is that it's not. It's like one thing I really hate. Again, this has to go, and I don't want to get too political because I like to stray away from that because we're a very neutral platform here on our platform.
We try to stay within the realm of film at least. Yeah.
Right. Well, one thing I will say is I dislike how in the media they had to say, oh well, this is a black film, this is an Asian film, this is a white film, this is a female film, a male-led film. It's like, it's a film, and people, of course, this is the only thing I fear from this movie is that there's going to be a heavy dose. You and all three of us know there's going to be a heavy dose of Freudian slip. I'm thinking about Ghostbusters. A heavy dose of racial politics, which I pray to God does not divide people, because I want black, white, Asian, I want everybody to see this movie and love it and prove that it doesn't matter where it takes place. It takes place in Africa, it takes place in the moon, it takes place in Atlantis, it can take place on Mars, it can take place in Japan, it doesn't matter, it can take place in America, I don't care, it can take place in a cave, in a mountain, I don't care. It's just a good movie. And that's what we have to understand. Right. It's a great movie, and get away from having to categorize it as a black film and try to say and a lot of articles are going to piggyback off. A lot of news sites are going to be, well, top 5 reasons why Black Panther breaks down this whiteness in Hollywood and blah blah blah. I'm like, just give me a good movie. I don't care about that. Give me a good movie. Let's celebrate a great movie. And I want to know what you guys think about this, because I'm coming from a person that is black, that wants this movie to do well, but of course I just want people to enjoy it. I'm sick of this racial politics. It's something that because it has to do with film. I hope that people can just enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah, I always in the running joke. I always say, wait, you're black? Oh my God, my mind is blown. No, I'm just kidding. So that's a running joke of mine throughout these podcasts. But anyway, I digress. Now, they're all not going to be that funny, people. By the way, check me out the Funny Bone later. No.
But I have to do a shameless plug there, but keep going, bro.
But anyway, you're right. I mean, there are probably going to be a lot of racial politics that are going to come into this about surrounding Black Panther. The one thing I'm afraid of is you're going to have a lot of well-meaning people who are going to start saying, oh, Black Panther work. So now what other superhero can we race flip and have it still work? And they're going to be ignoring the whole idea, the whole thing is of Black Panther works because it's not just a good black character. It's a good character, period. And I think some of that is, I think that's going to be lost in the conversation. I'm like, yes, Marvel does have great characters. This is one of them. You know, it's not, it's, I don't know if I'm wording this properly, but I just think that a lot of people are going to try to take the wrong lessons from this, and they're going to try to shortcut their way to, let's make Nova an albino, you know, or whatever, you know.
Or one thing that we can segue into, this has to do with Black Panther, and then we'll get into our last topic, which is Tomb Raider, and then we'll end the show, and we'll go take some live questions. Is one of the things that I really don't like is this thing where, we should have a female Doctor Who just because of social justice, or we should have a female 007. Like I saw on the TV, I saw one of the ads for Atomic Blonde, which I do not know how it's doing rating wise.
I don't know. I seen the preview. It looks okay, but I mean, I got two things that kind of will wrap back around on this. For one, they've already had a little controversy, and I didn't even want to bring this up because it's fucking stupid. But because of the one poster that was released of Black Panther sitting on the throne, they were comparing it to the leader of the actual Black Panther
movement,
league,
and I'm just like,
or group, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, it's like, are you fucking kidding me? That is so ridiculous. Just because he's sitting in a seat, big deal. They're making way too much out of it.
They're putting too much into it. I mean, that's like saying anyone who sits in a chair. That's like, it's like saying like, this is.
You know, if he was standing, they would have found something else similar to go into that.
And, look at this picture, this obligatory picture we found of the Black Panther movement in 1973, and he's standing in this. I'm like, what? Everyone has to stand at some point.
Right. Well, no, and that's just the stupid part that's already come out. And then the other thing that was going on with the whole thing is, to kind of go with what Rob was saying too, was, you're going to see this now. If this film is successful, they're going to get the wrong idea from it. And the thing they don't get is, it's one thing to change the race of a character, and I've talked about this in several different ways before in the past about how it doesn't matter as long as you don't change who the character is.
I will say one thing, though.
Intricate to who the character is.
I will say one thing, though. I remember I got into this debate with this one gentleman who, I forgot his name, but it was about a couple months ago. That's when we were talking about Liz Allen, the fact that she's black, which I had no issue with. And the fact that, Zendaya is Mary Jane, obviously, spoiler, she is Mary Jane. She lied.
MJ.
She's MJ.
Not Mary Jane.
She's MJ. She's Mary Jane. But
her name is Michelle.
That's a cop-out.
It is a cop-out. But here's the thing. Like, the guy was basically giving me an argument. Well, black characters have been represented and blah, blah, blah. Kind of the same generic argument I keep hearing where, they try to say that. But I hit him with this, and I say, okay, well, if this was a black character being played by a white actor, you'll be screaming through the roof. But, you see this, and when it's, for social justice, you have no issue with that. Oh, give it to the black characters. Give it to the black characters. I'm like, well, why don't you create your own characters that from scratch instead of trying to appropriate something else? Right. That's what I get so angry about. Is that it's a double standard where they love to take stuff from white characters, but when we do it in reverse, they lose their minds. And I'm like, you can't have it both ways. You can't have
your cake and eat it too.
Right, exactly. How it needs to be done is, again, have it balanced where, like, I would have been fine if Liz Allen was white or Asian or Mexican or any, but it just, again, it's about the best character. Now, I do like the fact that they did make the characters, have more black characters, because it makes sense, because I grew up in Queens for a short time when I was a child. But at the same time, I know there's white, Asian, there's different demographics there, and again, the whole movie it doesn't bog down the movie at all. The whole obvious shoehorning that in, because it's not really shoehorning, because again, it doesn't make sense for the area. But at the same time, again, it does set a bad precedent to me, and it does make me worried about future films where even, I'll give you an example. I don't know if you guys are gamers or not, but Call of Duty World War II is coming out this year, right? They make a Call of Duty game every year. It's kind of game into gaming, but it has to do with what we're talking about. Where, we know majority of the people that fought the wars is men. They make up 98%, 99%, all the wars fought.
Yeah, you would have women in non-combat roles, as
right?
nurses
And
or
it's not,
as-
there's not any less people. The women make contributions, but they make contributions in a different way. They don't have to fight to make a contribution. I think a movie like Hacksaw Ridge proved that. But the point is that, it's like this thing where they have a black female soldier in there. I'm like, that's not historically accurate. That's like going in Civil War and having all the Confederates and the Union have exosuits, and they're running around with like different tech, and they're running around with laser guns. It's like, that's not historically accurate.
That's a good analogy. Yeah,
you know, and
I think yeah.
And it's like where it becomes the point where I know people say, "Oh well, it's a video game." Like, I know it's a video game, but honor the soldiers, the men that fought, that saved this country, to give us our rights, and you want to just shoehorn your agenda so you feel good. Like, it really gets on my nerves, because imagine if there was a war like the movie Dunkirk, where it's like, well, there's not enough minorities in the movie. I'm like, well, it's the British soldiers. It's in Europe. There's mostly white people in Europe.
Right.
Like,
well, not only that, even on, in most armies, if there was any, there was a lot of race segregation within the,
but
the
the
military.
thing about it is,
but
here's the thing.
If any races were even allowed to fight, but yeah.
But here's the thing: it changed in World War II, especially in World War II. They integrated it, especially with Truman.
Yeah,
which is good. But the thing is, so that you can have black male soldiers. I'm all for that, because you have because I would love to have people like the Tuskegee, highlight them, make a game about them. But the point I'm making is that you can do that because it's historically accurate.
Correct.
If you have black male soldiers, I would be all for that. But black female soldiers is like that never, it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist.
And that kind of goes with my argument. When I say it's like, obviously you're not going to get Gilbert Gottfried to play Martin Luther King. It makes no fucking sense, because we know what Martin Luther King looked like. We knew what he was like. We have video proof of what he acted and sounded like. Just like, why would you get Denzel Washington to play Abraham Lincoln? No, you get Daniel Day-Lewis, right?
Actually, a good character that you, and I hate to say this, you can't change the race up and have it work, is Indiana Jones. If you think about it.
If you keep him in that era, kind of,
Yeah, because, someone said to me one time, oh, yeah, you can change Indiana Jones. You can change his race. Wouldn't make a difference. I'm like, how is a black man going to get into Nazi Germany in the 30s? I'm like, how is he going to discuss? Yeah, because we all know there was a black SS regiment. I mean, come on.
Oh, right. That's like I said. As long as it's not, as long as it makes sense, then yeah. Here's my argument in a quick nutshell, and I've said this. I know you guys are sick of hearing it.
And we'll get into Tomb Raider after this.
Right. Yeah. If you're going to change a character, fine. If it doesn't change who the character is, great. Like I've said before, Batman can be Mexican as long as his parents are Mexican and they get shot and killed, and he has a Batarang, and he has a Batmobile, and he has a cowl, and he has an Alfred. He's still Batman. Same thing with Superman. We've already had an Asian American Superman. It doesn't matter what color they are, as long as nothing has changed about the character. As long as he's got X-ray vision, he can fly, and he loves Lois Lane. That's what Superman is. It doesn't matter what color his hair is. It doesn't matter what color his eyes are. That's what I'm saying. But if you look at a character like Black Panther, to where it is so integral to who that character is.
Exactly, yeah.
Luke Cage, on the other hand, though, they proved by stripping away all that blaxploitation tone that it doesn't matter if he's black or white, really. He's just a good character. He works in this world. There's aspects of his story that are, about the fact that he is African American. But my point is not to start an argument, but you could change his character into a Asian person, and it would be kind of the same. You could do a similar story without losing too much of who that character is besides the color of the skin. Not that you would change it, but I'm just trying to make an example. But then you have the other problem where, like with last year, the year before that Doctor Strange came out, whatever. Anyway, point is with the Ancient One, everybody was pitching him fit that it wasn't an Asian person and it was played by Tilda Swinton. That's what it was, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Tilda Swinton. Yeah. Which again, I actually didn't really have an issue with.
Well, and that's where I said, what are you gonna do?
It's like, especially like, here's the thing. Here's a perfect example. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Tom, but you're gonna love this when I say it. Okay, as much as Avatar: The Last Airbender, the film from M. Night Shyamalan, is a colossal failure. It's so bloody bad. One thing I stand by, with him is that if he wanted to sell this movie internationally, especially to Asian markets, and he had the Japanese being the Fire Nation, because and the Chinese being the Airbenders, which is basically, you know, there's a lot of tension between Japanese and Chinese even to this day for obvious reasons. That I don't think that would play too well in Japan. I mean, China may like it, but Japan may not. So I think that's why he had all the Fire Nation be his race, which is Indian, and it made sense because he's looking at it from a standpoint where he wants to still, even though the movie's horrendous, he still had the intention of telling the same story, but changed the race where he avoided that, and that's what Marvel did, where they wanted to avoid that racial politics, so they just had a white female play it, but still be true to the character and be true to who the ancient one is, so you still get a good character. You know what I mean? And so I understand why they did it. Where people are like, oh, it should have been Asian. Like Iron Fist should have been Asian, even though Iron Fist is Asian in the comic books. So that's basically how I feel about it. That's how I feel like social justice warriors.
Right. That's kind of what I was getting around to, was if you do the Asian everybody was gonna bitch that you're doing an Asian stereotype if you did have an old Asian guy playing the part.
Same applies to Iron Fist actually too. I mean,
either way you're cooked. Either way you're cooked. Yeah.
Right. You said something about things in Japan. Actually, this and China, they're not liking each other. In China, there was a building, very large skyscraper built, and the top was supposed to have was supposed to be hollowed out to allow the high speed winds to pass through it, and so it wouldn't sway back and forth. Originally, that design was round, and they actually had to go back and change it because the Chinese thought the round shape resembled too closely to the rising sun on the Japanese flag.
Oh my god!
I am not making this up.
Like I said, I know my history. They do not like each other. They may be they may be from the same genetic line, because all Asians are pretty much have the same genetic link. They all look the same because basically their DNA, whatever. I don't want to get too scientific, but even despite that, they hate each other on a cellular level with these people.
Japan cannot export products made in Japan to China. I mean, that's the extent of the animosity.
There's just big trouble in Little China.
Oh yes, of course. Well, anyway, let's get into the last topic. Then
we might as well head out myself into the last part.
So let me just go ahead and just throw up Tomb Raider we have here, and I'm just gonna say this right now. I think this film's gonna suck. So, yeah. So we're done, guys. We no.
I was gonna say I don't have too much to say about Tomb Raider because I've never been a huge fan. I just always seen her as a female, modern Indiana Jones. I don't have anything against her. She's a strong female character. I thought the first Tomb Raider movie with Angelina Jolie was okay, but the second movie was completely unfucking watchable. Yeah, anyway, continue.
Actually, I played several of the games. Yeah, they're not bad. I played the last game from not the most recent game, but the one on PS3 that rebooted the whole timeline. That was actually pretty good. We did a thing about Tomb Raider. The director Hiroto Utag. One of the first Midnight's Edge videos I did with Andre. So for anybody who wants more information, go check that out. But I'm indifferent to this. So I really take it or leave it. I don't really have an opinion on it. So,
I mean, she looks okay.
She looks the part, yeah.
I just don't. You're gonna have to come up with something better than what we had before, and something that isn't just an Indiana Jones ripoff. Well,
here's the thing: they're going with the 2013 version. I'm gonna say it right now. I don't really like the 2013 version at all. Really, I mean, it's all right. I mean, I know reimaginings are great, and they did definitely do something different than the original. But the problem is that you took away from the real charm and and what Tomb Raider was all about. It was all about just fun. I mean, it's one of those games where I like people. Some of the gameplay, because I'm a gamer. It's a bit hit or miss. It definitely didn't age well. Definitely the mechanics are a little bit on the stiff side, but once you get used to it, it's a really fun game, and you get to explore different tombs. I love the atmosphere, especially the second game, which is probably my favorite in the series. I really love especially there's this one level where you need to go inside in a big sunken ship akin to something like the Titanic. You're just going around in there exploring and fighting bad guys, and you're trying to look for the certain artifact in there. It's so much fun. But the point I'm making is, and even they had games in the early 2000s, they had a trilogy of Tomb Raider games that were probably a different developer, but still, I think the same developer was still in the same spirit of the original games. But with this one, it's like they're taking everything out. Like, they're taking out the character. She's not what she used to be. She's basically now, she's some chick who parties with her friend and she goes on an adventure. It's like, that's not who Lara Croft is. It's just not, and I'm a huge fan of the series, and it's like they're really messing this up for me. And Alicia Vikander is like, she looks okay as Lara Croft. I'm not losing my mind over it. I'm just like, she's just like, okay, she has the costume. She'd be a great cosplayer if she was cosplaying at a convention. I'd be like, oh, that's a great Tomb Raider cosplay. But as a movie, I'm like, this is the best you got? This is it? Really? And here's the thing. These stills are not, I don't think they're getting any traction at all. I think people don't give a good crap about this movie because everybody is just like, yeah, another figure on the way. We already see it coming. And I'm just like, and I'm looking at here, I typed it in. It's coming out next year around March. I have no interest in this movie. I don't care.
Well, to kind of expand on what you just said there a little bit ago, I think it's very important to get somebody like an Angelina Jolie in this part because not everybody knows who this character is.
That's what was smart to do with the first one. That's actually, it was really intelligent enough to get.
At that point, the only people who knew who she was a small, a small portion of the country that played video games, and that was it. A bunch of neckbeards and a few nerd girls that were into this stuff. Otherwise, nobody knew who the fuck Lara Croft was before that.
Or you got kids like me who played it when they were like 7 years old. Yeah.
But yeah, then you have the next generation coming in. I'm not saying that now she's probably, and that's probably where they're going to get away with this a little bit more, is now she's a lot more prominent and popular and well known than she was back then because she's had 20 years now basically to kind of get into the get into the pop culture zeitgeist. So that being said, I really think that's the only misfire I'm seeing here is, like you said, it just seems very kind of generic. I don't know who this girl is. Maybe that's going to be a good thing for it. As long as the movie's good, that's not going to matter.
I think she's Swedish. I think she's a Swedish actress, Alicia Vikander. She hasn't. I don't think she's done a whole lot here.
Damn foreigners taking all our jobs.
Hey, I've been to Sweden. They need our money to buy breast implants.
The thing about it is too is that like it's one of those things where like there's been this thing where people say they can't really find really good American actors anymore, and it's kind of sad that that is the case.
I got to toot my own horn for a second since I did the Obama did it joke. I was at the screening last night for the Planet of the Apes movies, right. And in the beginning of the second one, they got a news feed of bunch of shit going down with everybody getting the plague and all that kind of crap, the simian flu, and Obama's sitting there talking. I'm like, I knew it, Obama did it. The whole fucking theater started.
Look, I'm gonna infect all y'all.
Listen, my fellow Americans, I'm gonna infect you with this what is it, a virus or something?
Simian flu.
Simian flu.
There's gonna be a rise of the Planet of the Apes.
You kind of sound like George Bush there. It's like, oh, don't make me do stuff. I don't want to do it.
Don't make me do stuff.
Don't make me do stuff.
I don't want to think. I just want a taco.
It's like, oh, good old George, or good old Bushy Jr.
I miss him now. I tell you, but let's not get into politics.
No. Let's not do that.
Anybody got anything else to say about Tomb Raider before we get into questions, real quick?
No,
or
nothing else.
You got anything else to add to that, Beyond?
No, we actually have a question from Amethyst though. So
yes, we do.
I'm gonna bring us back into the other loop. We're gonna segue back inside. Okay, so right now we're at the end of the segment for the Film Buffet podcast, where right now we have a couple questions again. One from Amethyst Chaos, as always.
It was actually one of our correspondents, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to definitely have her on in the future if she can hear that. We want to bring you on, Amethyst, to be like a moderator or something like that.
She helps us a lot behind the scenes,
absolutely.
So we got to give credit there.
So one of the things the question she sent was, what are your thoughts on Julianne Moore's character in Kingsman: The Golden Circle? Well, I'll start with you, Tom.
I like redheads.
I love redheads.
I love Julianne Moore.
Julianne Moore is attractive. I mean,
there's nothing wrong with adding somebody who's got the talent she's got to the lineup.
Right.
I'm not familiar too much with what her character is going to be per se, but I seen a couple pictures that Amethyst sent me earlier, and a little bit on it. I think she's probably she seems in the same league as a lot of the other people they got, so she'll hold her own as long as they give her something to do and they're not just. She's going to be in it for 2 seconds, like a Expendables kind of thing.
Right, where it's like, they're just getting the name just so they can sell tickets. I mean, like I said, Julianne Moore, she's an attractive lady. I love me some redheads. And she's a really great actress. She always brings in every film I've seen her in, whether it's, romantic comedy or whatever. But the thing about it is, what I like is, maybe, because when I'm looking at it, I don't know the synopsis, I don't know what her character is, but I'm assuming she's sort of this, like, villain who's like very unsettling, where she's like kind of like Because she seems to be like
she's a villain according to Amethyst.
Right, but
yeah,
is she like? I know she's a villain, but it seems like she's like one of those villains that's really happy. You know those types where they're like, "Oh, everything's all nice," and you know, but then they want to kill you. That type of thing. Is that how she is?
Matthew Vaughn describes the character as Martha Stewart on crack. So I mean,
ooh, I can go for that. I can go for that for sure.
Yeah. My thoughts. She's a professional. Like I said, very attractive lady. And she's good in everything she does. I mean, so I have no doubt that this part's probably getting in good hands. The character's name is Poppy, and she wants to legalize drugs worldwide. And so I see her kind of like as this maniacal kind of, but this like almost like giddy kind of maniacal villain in this movie. Like I said, she'll probably knock it out of the park. So
we also have another question from here, and that's good. That's great, Tom. And I'd agree. I think she's going to do great. We also have another question from Sniper Girl 21. She says, "Do you think that the new Tomb Raider film will work better as a regular action film as opposed to a straight-out Tomb Raider film, at least for the people who are not familiar with the game?" And I actually know that's a great question. I know exactly what she's saying. She's basically saying, if you took out the label Tomb Raider, would it work on its own as a standard action film? I think
you don't want to make it too generic, though.
Yeah, I think it would just end up being generic. I really think it would just end up being a generic, standard action film. Like as she said, it's just going to be this thing where it'll just be okay. Not great. But
my problem, I hope, just to because we talked a little bit about before, but I guess what my hope for the fans at least is they don't turn it into just a bunch of overt sexualized jokes and turn her into a sex object throughout the film, kind of like they did with Angelina Jolie, where it was like that prototype. What's her face from all the Michael Bay movies? I can't stand her.
Megan Fox.
Yeah, she's a great-looking girl, but she can't act her way out of a paper bag, and it was like one of those things where a lot of this stuff was just her posing throughout the entire two films that I remember. And if they do a lot of that shit with this girl, I have a feeling it's just you're gonna get a lot of people, and rightfully so, saying that she's just gonna be, objectified as a sex object. And unless there's something unique about the story and different than most action movies, I don't think it's gonna stand above the rest. I guess to kind of answer that question in a roundabout way.
I think for me. Oh, I'm sorry. No, actually, go ahead, Rob. I'll go last.
Well, the big problem is video game movies always have a difficult time telling a good story because you are actually because the player takes an active role in getting the story from A to B, and a video game. And that's the problem. I mean,
speaking of, wouldn't the first two Tomb Raider movies be the most successful video game movies ever at this point? Then.
Yeah, you're probably right. But like it's. Like I said, video games, because the big problem, they always try to bring out what's great about the game. They try to make they try to incorporate. I don't want to say try to incorporate too many elements of the game into a movie, but they always tried to focus on the wrong things.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. I was actually rewatching. Give an example. Rewatching Hitman the other day. Hitman Agent 47, the other reboot, the forgettable second attempt to make a Hitman movie work, and it just did not do it for me. One of the things I really hated about the movie was that it felt so uninspired. Very miscast. Rupert Friend as Hitman was a joke. I thought the other guy, Timothy Olyphant, worked better to me than Rupert Friend. I mean, he sort of worked. He kind of got some of the stoic elements of 47's character, but
Timothy Olyphant is at least a veteran actor.
At least he looks like the 47, whereas Rupert Friend looks like he just got himself a buzz cut. It's just like he doesn't look anything like Hitman really at all. And of course, the movie was slammed by critics, and they tried to interject this like side story with his basically he's 47, and then there's like this thing where the chick is is the daughter. I forgot her name. I can see her name. Her name is Katya, and she's basically the Asian 90 or whatever, and that's the daughter of the scientists, whatever. And they pretty much spoil the entire movie in the trailer, if you remember, guys. And they're left little to be desired. They let that Zachary Quinto is going to be the villain. His name is John Smith in the movie, which is the most generic name I've ever. I mean, that's the most generic.
John.
generic American name you can get. But the point is that the movie felt uninspired. They tried to bog it down with something that had nothing to do really with the game. And I guess it ended up being a throwaway film, and it sucked. It just sucked.
Did anybody else have to add to that? Because Neil had a question too.
Yeah, I can take a look.
Well, I would just gotta say that they're still trying to bring a Metal Gear Solid game to the big screen, movie to the big screen. They're still trying to make Metal Gear Solid, and I'm kind of dreading what that's gonna look like because I love Metal Gear Solid, and that's gonna suffer from a lot of the same things that we're talking about here. You know, I mean, I don't know. Have you guys ever played Metal Gear Solid?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I always call it's like a big budget action movie crammed into a video game, and trying to take trying to blow it up onto the screen is probably just gonna bring out all the things
like
wrong
a carbon copy of a carbon copy of a carbon copy.
Yeah, it diminishes along the way. Yeah.
But yeah, so then Neil had a question, unless you had something else to add to that beyond.
No, that was pretty much it. I pretty much got everything with that. I just, like I said, it looks uninspired. I don't care, about the movie at all. It's like I already know it's coming. Like it's sitting with the Mummy. Like I saw this coming months ago. I'm like, this movie's gonna fail so hard.
So did I. And everybody was like, "Oh, you think so?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, this movie ain't gonna do shit. Nobody wants it. Nobody wanted the last Dracula or Frankenstein movie. People are played out on this shit." But anyway, so Neil's question then, Neil Gantes, asks us, with John Wick in Chapter 2, do you think we'll see less focus on shaky and handheld cam going forward from Hollywood studios?
I hope to God. I hope.
Me too.
God.
And that's a good question because I brought this up in our Spider-Man talk, or I did last week in the show, one or the other, where I said I was so glad that there was like none of that handheld bullshit in Spider-Man. I loved having action scenes where I could see what the fuck was going on. That's one of the reasons I can't stand the Transformer movies, because once the action scenes kick in, I've said it a million times, it looks like Gumby fighting Gumby, because it looks like once they start fighting each other, you can't tell where the one begins and the other ends. You know what I mean? It's like, ugh. So yeah, it's nice to have an action film where you can actually see the action. And John Wick 2, the movie itself is, on par with the first film in a lot of ways, but I would actually say cinematography wise and edited, and the flow of the second film is much better than the first film as far as the craftsmanship. That's for sure. So that's a good analogy there. Yeah.
Oh yeah, like I said, I've seen it. The cinematography is phenomenal. It's especially the tunnel scene in the movie. I mean, I didn't even see the first film, and I went into this film like, okay, I heard the first one was great. I had plans of seeing the first one. I saw the second film, loved it. That was very, very good. But go ahead, Rob.
Have you seen the first film yet?
Not yet.
I did.
Oh my God, dude, do yourself a favor.
I will. Yeah, definitely.
I did not see the first film either, but I said about how in my review of Batman v Superman, but Zack Snyder seems to love the whole handheld shaky cam. Can somebody please go to Best Buy and spend the $50 on a tripod for Zack Snyder?
Right, no shit.
I mean, it doesn't look artistic anymore. It looks amateurish and cheap. I mean, you shoot a $200 million movie on handheld cameras,
and it doesn't help the special effects either.
No, I mean, like I said, I am tired of the handheld shaky cam, and it's the fact that everybody uses it, and I'm hoping that this is run its course. But for some things, handheld cams work. Like a movie like this is Spinal Tap, which has a very documentary kind of feel.
Right, but that's not an action film either.
No, exactly. You're not.
You expect it in like the modern. Well, they're not modern anymore because they're older now. You expected to see that a lot of that shit in the kung fu films that come out of, back in the day that would import over, especially during the craze of like Jackie Chan.
As far as
all that stuff,
it
got old.
Budget,
it got real. But that was the reason they did that, was so that the fight scenes looked more realistic and they could pull their punches a lot easier and do more, and make it look quicker and all that kind of stuff without, because if you hold the camera flat, you're going to see them pulling the punches and it's just going to look like a choreographed dance routine instead of a actual fight, and that gets you intense into the fight. But
and the idea is that, and the other part of the idea is that you are watching the fight. It's supposed to look like you are there watching the fight.
And I think the movies that were really responsible for this mainly were the Batman Nolan films, because especially in Batman Begins and stuff, there's a lot of that shaky cam in the middle of the fights.
That really ruined it for me when I saw it. Like
between that and Transformers, they made it mainstream, so it was like so you know, just like the Matrix effects were and the Terminator effects were back in the day. It's like every movie tries to adapt it and do something different with it, and it just becomes a gimmick. Or like morphing from Willow, you know what I mean? It was like, how many commercials and music videos were using that gimmick after that movie? You know, it's like, come on. Anyway, just to kind of get back on track though. No, I'm glad, and I hope more movies do take note. And if I remember right, I don't think there's very much shaky cam, if any, in War for the Planet of the Apes either.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we have technology, guys. Use it. So that's
and there is a difference between POV and shaky cam. Don't get me wrong, because there's times where you can almost confuse the two. But if it's well done POV, that's one thing. But yeah, I can't stand shaky cam unless it's done well, which it's getting old. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, kind of almost. It almost seems like, you know, a lot of directors, they want to make it look like a first-person shooter almost.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you're kind of missing the point of the first-person shooter. The whole idea is that you are playing as that character, not that, you know, oh well, it moves and it moves around a lot and it's more dramatic.
Well, and I hate watching people playing video games, so that's why I don't understand people like PewDiePie and stuff like that. I mean, I can understand if you're like doing a walkthrough to, you know, help yourself figure out how to play a game, but just to watch somebody play a game drives me nuts.
Well, I think it's because of the personality in the
well, not just
watch
that,
them react to getting scared, and that's what makes it so fun. It's
well,
like,
I get that, but I mean, like, even my kid, just for an example, he'll say, "Come watch me play this, Dad," and I can watch him play for a little bit because my kid just loves video games. It's like, I can't watch it anymore because I get a headache just watching this and not actually being the one playing it. It just really drives me nuts, and that's one of the reason I was getting to is that's one of the reasons I have not watched Hardcore Henry or whatever the hell it was called.
I actually
yet.
watched a little bit last night, and I don't get motion sickness. I didn't get it from watching it, but I did feel a little uneasy. I won't lie.
I just can't imagine why. You know, that's what I was kind of getting that vibe. You're getting too much of that in these movies, and I can get it. That's the gimmick for that film. But it's like, if I'm going to watch something like that, I'd just soon go play Grand Theft Auto or some video game than not do that. I just it's not a movie then anymore for me. Anyway, I guess if you guys get what I'm saying.
And it sucks. Yeah. I mean, to me, it sucks how divisive Hardcore Henry was. I wish it would have worked. I guess I feel like they need to work out the case where they need to make better technology where they can have the game. I mean, it's 40 is 40.
Well, they didn't even release it in 3D either. That was a big thing too. If they would have done that, it might have helped.
But I think if they would have had Hardcore Henry maybe use like better technology with like sort of like stabilizers with the camera, so it looks more stable, looks more less jarring on the eyes.
Smoother, yeah.
I feel like it could have worked. There would have been a better chance, if that makes sense. Just because, you would eliminate the chance of people getting motion sickness and people having that issue.
And I hate bashing on a movie that, you know, tries something different. I hate doing that because I don't want to discourage that in Hollywood, you know. I want them to try different things. I'd rather see them fall flat on their face 100 times making, you know, original weird shit than, you know, seeing 100 more Lego movies. You know what I mean? Just because I'm so sick of the products and the IPs and the, you know, and I mean that as an example. It's like, come on, we've gotten to the point where we had Battleship, the fucking movie, and we had a Tetris trilogy on the way. You know what I mean? Come on.
I can't believe that Battleship. I still can't believe that Battleship movie happened.
Of all of them, I can understand that, but you know, when they're talking Monopoly and shit, which as far as I know is still technically in the pipeline, it's like, how the fuck, people? You got to be shitting me. You know, what is next? Are we going to be turning, you know, candy bars into movies?
Actually, there was supposed to be a Candyland movie in the works.
There you go. See, well,
and we have the Emoji movie coming, and that's going to be.
That's a good example. That's a good fucking example right there, and that's the beginning.
At one point, it was supposed to star Adam Sandler, Candyland movie. I'm not making that up.
That's not fucking surprise me one bit either, because that would be right up his alley. It'd be Pixels 5.
Ooh, we got to go to the Candy Cane Forest. Zippity-doo.
Oh, I rolled a 7.
Yeah, I don't want to see that at all. Please do not give me that.
Shoots and Ladders, the
Stop
movie.
looking at me, Schwan.
Right. Well, I think, gentlemen, I don't see any more questions.
Yeah, I think that we scared everybody away. So.
I think we probably did, but that's okay. Well, it's good. It's good that we at least got a couple questions. We were able to interact with the people here on the.
But yeah,
Actually,
there's going to be some
got another
exciting.
question. Never mind.
Oh, okay, never mind. Go ahead.
Never mind. Do you think? Okay, this is from Neil Ganti again. Do you think Paramount would change the course of the Transformers franchise via Bumblebee spinoff due to the latest film to having diminishing returns? Which again, I am so glad that people finally around the world realize Transformers movies suck.
Well, if you remember, Beyond had a little rant a couple weeks back about this, so you already kind of know his feeling about the subject. And in that conversation, we basically talked about it a little bit. And to sum it up, we both kind of agreed that at this point, if they do go forward with this, which they actually are from what we know now, is that they'll cut the budget quite a bit. It'll already be a smaller budget because you only got probably 1 or 2 or 3 Transformers at the most. It's a chance for them to kind of quasi reboot the franchise, I think, is what Beyond really touched on a lot. Otherwise, we just hope it dies and goes away and never
for
comes
at least
back.
like 8 years, and it comes back.
Yeah,
with
until
good
they give
directors.
somebody. Yeah, until they give somebody who actually has a vision for this beyond, whatever fucking product we can cram in here, or Megan Fox in whatever position. And don't get me wrong, Michael Bay used to be something, but now these Transformer movies have made me lose all respect for him at this point. I haven't even seen the newest one yet, but I've heard enough. I can surmise what this fucking movie is because they're all the same.
Well, I'm as far as I go, they're going to go to the mat with this. They're not going to change course. They're going to keep going until these things don't make at least $1 more than they cost.
And you're probably right, because they did the same damn thing with TMNT, but at least that they only got 2 movies in.
Yeah, and then I guess because that turned out to be a disaster, that TMT.
And I'm glad that just went away.
Yeah, I'm glad that completely fell flat real fast, and I'm glad.
One of these days I will go on a TMNT tirade, because if people who do actually know me out there know I'm a very huge Ninja Turtles fan.
Oh yeah, we'll have like a little review for side.
Hate those movies.
Which one's worse, the first one or the second one?
Second one.
Okay.
Because the problems I have with the second one more have to do with just you're expecting me to believe this bullshit. Yeah. That's the sum it up. Because I'm sorry, but the moment that Bebop and Rocksteady become a warthog, fucking spoilers. At the moment that Bebop and Rocksteady become a warthog and a rhinoceros, the explanation that we're given is basically "fuck you, movie, move along." I'm like, when the 1987 TV series for kids that is almost completely, generally 9 times out of 10, just out of their fucking minds, insane, stupid shit. Because I've watched it, I watch it religiously once in a while too when I'm getting in a mood. I know it's garbage looking back on it now, but I have that nostalgia for it. I understand it. I can see that without that, buffer in between. I know it's shit, but it's funny shit to me. When the explanation that we get in the older cartoons makes more sense than the shit we're getting in a movie in 2016, something's fucking wrong. Because they're just telling us that, they just turned that way because it's in their genes. What the how hard is it to bring in a warthog and a rhinoceros, or just say a vial of blood that says rhinoceros on one and warthog on the other, and stick them with a needle? You know what I mean? How hard is that? There's so many things in this movie that they could have fixed this series with, that they destroyed in the first film, and they didn't. They made it worse.
It's so embarrassing. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Tom, but
no, you're right.
It's so embarrassing how I'm looking at the box office and Box Office Mojo TM1 versus 2. The box office for the second one was cut in half, literally in half. It's just like
that's because they lost the main audience because the first film was just stupid. You lost at least half or better of the original TMNT fan base. Right.
Did you at least like the elevator scene? Did you at least like that scene?
It was okay. There was elements to the films that were okay. Here's the thing with the first film, and I'll do this as short as possible because I know you got to get going beyond. But it's like the first film was like, how do I put this? You had, going into it, I'm like, oh God, the worst problem is that these turtles are going to look like Shrek, or like transvestite Shreks, for a lack of a better way of explaining what they look like, or weird lizard creatures. They don't look anything like the turtles. They're too big, they're too bulky, they're the incredible bulky turtles. Anyway, I can't come up with a good synonym or anything right now to explain what they look like. And I was like, oh God, they're gonna be fucking horrible, and Splinter's gonna suck because what's his face? Tony Shalhoub is doing the voice. What the fuck were they thinking?
Monk?
And
Tony Shalhoub
yeah,
Monk?
yeah. And then you got Miss Transformers, Michael Bay herself, in every aspect of the film they could cram her in. So like I'm getting into this movie and it's like I can start seeing the cracks right away. First of all, they got to get Megan Fox in anywhere they could. And then in lieu of that, or because of that, they fuck up the entire backstory of the Ninja Turtles. It's like my explanation for this is, and just to, like I said, try and sum this up, even though I'm going on and on and on. It would be like remaking Star Wars and completely erasing Obi-Wan Kenobi and making Darth Vader just a robot.
That's pretty accurate from what I've heard.
That's part of it.
And one thing too, and on top of that, do you guys remember the fact that a couple years ago they intended for the turtles to be aliens? Remember that? That was a big thing.
Well, the whole about that.
Yeah, the whole thing. Well, and there is some truth to that. That's the thing, is I think that was misconstrued, because if you go by the comics, I believe, if I remember correctly, I don't remember which version, if it is in the original run or one of the later runs. Well, somebody I'm sure will correct me because it's been a while, where the part of the chemicals for the mutagen did come from Dimension X or from another dimension or whatever, because that's where the Utrons come in and all that kind of shit. But anyway, go ahead, Rob.
Well, I don't remember the exact origin of the chemicals, but I have a lot of the original black and white comics from the 80s, and it's actually all the. If they were to do that straight up, just as a direct translation, it would get an R rating. I mean, there was that. The comics were actually pretty edgy at the time.
Well, that's the thing, and I've said this, and I'll make it short, because like I said, no, Beyond's got to go. I would love to see now that they've got to a point where they realize that this PG-13, because that's the problem. The original movie from 1990 at a PG rating was a lot more adult-oriented and more dark and closer to the original comics than what we got in the remake, or whatever you want to call it, the reboot from 2014. And I would love to see an edgy, in the vein of Daredevil, and there's a reason for that, in the vein of Daredevil series on Netflix that is more in tone with the original comics, because you do have a very large adult fan base there for the Ninja Turtles. You got the kids shit on Nickelodeon, give the adults something over here. And as most people may know, especially if you're a Ninja Turtle fan, there is a direct link between Daredevil and the Ninja Turtles. The van and the chemical that blinded Daredevil, Matt Murdock, and gave him his powers is supposed to be the exact same chemical that made the Ninja Turtles who they are. And there's a lot of similarities between the stories, because Splinter is a parody of Stick, and the foot is a parody of the hand, and all that kind of stuff. At first it was a joke, but they got to the point where they realized they actually had something kind of unique. So regardless, it would be I would love to see a Ninja Turtles show in a dark tone, just like the original comic book series. It would be amazing, and I think it would do very well, but that's a lot of bullshit.
Neil tells us it was Image Comics, the Image version that had all the alien stuff. So thanks for that little bit, Neil.
Yes. Thank you, Neil. Yeah, so I know there's been a few different series, and I've had a hard time keeping some of the newer ones intact in my brain, because I lost my entire comic book collection years ago in a house fire. So I was like, I had been rebuilding, and I've got a lot of Ninja Turtle comics, but I haven't had time to go back through them again. And so a lot of them I haven't. So I haven't really had a. No, that's cool. It happens, but I mean, I lost a lot of cool shit, and it's like I've been trying to rebuild a lot of that stuff since then, and I got to a point where I really got away from a lot of it, because it just made me. I don't know how to put it. It's just it bothered me, because I didn't want to get into shit again. So I ran away from comics and cards and all that kind of stuff for a while, because I just didn't want to deal with it again. It was like, I don't want to rebuild, you know. But I finally have in the last few years. I've been rebuilding my graphic novels, and I've got quite a few Ninja Turtles comics back, and it's been, just slowly but surely. But I used to have like the whole Archie run and stuff like that for Ninja Turtles, and I didn't have too many of the older ones, but I had a few here and there. But I'm a big Ninja Turtle fan all around, and I was introduced through the toys and the TV series, and then I fell in love with the film, and through the TV series and all that stuff I learned of the comics and the original darker origins of the comics. And I've always kind of was happy that we got that movie originally to kind of get that. And I wasn't too disappointed in the 2014 movie, other than it was a wasted opportunity. You had a chance to really, give us something really cool, because you're going to do a PG-13 edgy Ninja Turtles, and all that's edgy about it is you got Michelangelo as a big pervert,
Oh man.
Yeah, they wasted the PG-13 rating where they really could have maximized it.
It's getting tight, dudes. Oh my god, I'm like, I cannot believe you just did that fucking joke. That's as bad as the swing joke in fucking Turtles 3. Only it's worse because it's fucking creepy. You know what I mean? Just the way he is. It's like, oh, that's it. I could sit here go all day long with all the problems with those two movies. So I'm not going to do that to you guys out there or beyond because he's got to get going. But I see Matt finally got to join us. How you doing out there, Matt?
Yeah, but I sent him a text saying, "Hey, what's up?" Nice comment. So yeah. Well, anyway, guys. So I think we're gonna end the live stream for those who are listening.
But there is quick here. But there is an announcement that Rob and I kind of wanted to talk about, and Beyond wanted to talk about to you guys. There's gonna be some really crazy shit coming up here in the next few weeks.
I think we should make another. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Tom. I think we should make a video announcing it too. Just in addition to us talking. Okay, good. Just making sure.
Just watch this space where there's some exciting stuff that's going to be happening soon.
Right, and we can't talk too much about it at this very moment in time, but yeah, there's going to be some big announcements coming up, and we're really excited about it. So sorry about all the chaos and craziness the last few days, and especially weeks here at the Film Buffet channel, but there's going to be a big change, and the Film Buffet podcast is going to have a huge change as well. If you haven't noticed already, the channel has gone through a lot of changes. So it's kind of going to be similar to what you're seeing already, but there's still going to be a little bit more changing. So hopefully you guys are enjoying some of the new content and the way that the content is being presented now. And I just want to thank everybody who's been involved with me since day one, and for Beyond, who's come on here lately, and Rob too, for helping me out a lot and getting this channel to what it was and what it will be. So I can't say much more than that other than that. So if you guys want to add to it, I'm going to say good night, and thanks for joining us on the Film Buffet podcast, and I'm going to turn it over to these guys.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining us, and we will see you next time.
All right. Again, this is from Beyond the Blizz. It's good to be back here once again, and glad for you guys to join us here on the Film Buffet podcast. Of course, we'll have another announcement video in the next coming weeks. Of course, all three of us, including Andre, are going to be working extensively to make sure we get everything up and running beforehand, so that way we can just hit the ground running and you guys really enjoy the new format. I'm really going to like it a lot. I'm really excited for it, and we really want to have this audience grow. And if you guys, for those of you listening, we really appreciate the dedicated fan base we have here. And one of the things we like is if anyone watching, tell your friends, share the videos, because a lot of great things are coming soon, because we know that if we are expanding, doing what is the right steps to really bring the Film Buffet, well, really the Midnight's Edge brand into almost say the mainstream, but really bring it into the next level, really get it to where it needs to be. And I'm really excited about that.
And don't just tell your friends, tell your enemies. Tell that guy you don't like at work. Tell everybody. Anybody you know. Call people.
Spam the shit out of it.
Call your friends.
Spam everybody. That's right. That's how you do it.
No, don't do that. Yeah. But no, yeah. So keep listening, guys. Coming very, very soon. There's going to be a lot of big, great announcements. Yeah.
All right, guys. So as we always say, thanks again for watching the Film Buffet podcast, and we will catch you guys later. All right. See you guys.
See you next.